Hey guys, it's Kelsey, your best friend on the homestead from roughandtumblefarmhouse.com. We are coming up on year 7 of being at our homestead, which is just crazy. And even before that, I spent 6 years working on all sorts of different farms. And even still, with all that experience coming into our homestead, there are so many things that I wish I had known before getting started homesteading. I could fill a whole book with all the things that I wish I knew about before I started homesteading. But today I'm going to share with you just three, sorry, I can't get my pinky down. 3, you know what I'm saying? 3 things that I think you should definitely consider before you get started. The first thing that I would think about before you get started homesteading is how long it is going to take you to actually find your homestead. It was really surprising to me how long it took to find that right place. And my husband and I, we're engaged, so we started looking for about a year to find the right place. We were talking about it the other day, and I think we figured we could remember at least 10 different places we went out and visited. And then there's certainly some we've got to be forgetting. So more than 10 places we had to look at before we found this one. And it took a year at least until we were able to find and buy our little farm. I'm sure some of you who might be in that process, who have done that process, it's so hard because you go visit a place and maybe the land, like, yeah, I can make this work for animals or whatever you want it to. But then you go and look at the house and it's like unlivable, or it would take thousands and thousands of dollars to fix it up and get it to the point where you could live in it. Or on the flip side, the house is like, yeah, this is workable. We can, live in this house or fix up some little things here and there. But then the land would be, it's like solid woods and you want to have, a small dairy farm, different things where it's like the land wouldn't work. Or there was one place the house was pretty decent. We liked the land, but they had, for whatever reason, sectioned off like a little chunk of it for their uncle, and his trailer house was there. So there was this, like, right in your backyard was this trailer house that was never going to go anywhere. So it's like, well, okay. So there's always something. And so you'll never probably find like the perfect place. You have to kind of figure out we absolutely cannot give these things up, and here's some things we can be flexible on. So our place is, the only thing that was really lacking with our place is that it is 5 acres, and I would really have liked something with more acreage. If you were just gonna have a couple goats here or something, or kind of what we have right now, that'd be fine, but I kind of have ambitions for bigger things and more grazing and easier grazing. Just keep in mind it's gonna take a long time, and that also when you do find the place, you have to move so fast on it, at least. So 7 years ago, it was a fast market. I think now it's even still just as fast of a market. So we walked around the house and walked around the property, and then in the driveway, after an hour, you have to commit to one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. She's mad I haven't brought her hay yet. We literally stood in the driveway and it was high pressure. My husband, he was leaving on a work trip for Ecuador. Because it was the spring before we were getting married, I lived in England for a while. I have friends in England. So I was taking a trip to England to go visit some friends, do a little solo hiking around, make sure I really wanted to marry my husband, that old song and dance. And so we put in the offer, and then we both got on international flights and left. I remember I was literally hiking through the Lake District of England, coming back to my hotel from Beatrix Potter's house, and I got a text congratulations, you just bought a farm. I'm like, holy crap. So it's the process is so crazy, and it has to move so fast, or you want to be able to move fast. So make sure, aside from being prepared for kind of the long haul look and having the right mind frame for it, make sure you've got your financial stuff situated. Make sure you have good savings for earnest money. There's all sorts of well inspections and other things you have to do when you're buying a property where you need liquid cash to pay for those things, in addition to then having money to put down on your new property and stuff like that. So just be prepared for that. And if at all possible, already have a lender lined up and have talked to them and gotten a pre-approval letter, so that way the chances of your offer being accepted, if multiple offers are coming in, is higher, because they know for sure they're going to get, exactly what you're saying you're going to give them. It's such a stressful thing. Buying and selling houses, I don't even want to think about it. So let's move on to number 2 of what I wish someone had told me before I started homesteading. Next one on that list, number 2, is fence. As you can see behind me here, we're missing some fence. You are going to be doing fencing forever. And maybe that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but especially if you're doing rotational grazing, you're moving fencing every single day, usually every single day. So you're dealing with wires and reels and fence posts and stuff like that. Even when you have something like a solid perimeter fence like we have here, this thing is from the 70s. It is slowly but surely crumbling around us, and we're kind of patching it and piecing it together and fixing it as best as we can. But fencing takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. Fencing is expensive. So if you're not planning on having animals that require fencing, you don't have to worry about it. If you're going to focus on growing veggies for the farmer's market, maybe having a few chickens, not a big deal. But if you have goats, sheep, cows, horses, pigs, you really have to invest in some good fencing. And you not only invest in it once, but you have to continue to invest in making sure that it is staying up to snuff, that it's not falling apart, and things are going to happen to it. You're going to have trees falling on your fence. When my husband and I got home from our wedding, the very first thing we did was we went and bought a chainsaw because a tree had fallen down on our fence and our goats were all out. So it doesn't stop. There's never a point where it's like, oh, we can just kind of sit back and look at the beautiful homestead. There are always things to be done, and fencing is just, it's endless. It's endless. The last thing I want to talk about is a kind of a harder one, and that is eating your own animals. Now, I think it's great to raise your own animals. We have raised our own animals for meat before. Prior to having our own, I butchered hundreds of chickens. I helped my friend with his mobile processing unit for a summer. So I have a lot of experience processing animals, respectfully dispatching animals. But it is, for me, very emotionally hard to kill our own animals. And for me, it's actually like the day of always really sucks. Nobody enjoys the butchering day or processing day. If they do, they're a psychopath and you shouldn't be their friend. But for the most part, it's leading up to it that's really hard for me. When, June, when she had her last, not this calf, but her calf before, he was a steer. So as soon as they're born, and you kind of do the leg check and you see it's a boy, it's, oh great, we're going to have meat on our table. But your heart, or at least my heart, always kind of breaks a little, like, this isn't one that we get to keep. This is, it's just, you just know what their fate is going to be. And for me, that's the hardest part, is coming out every day and feeding them and taking care of them and giving them the best life you possibly can. But I carry just too much guilt the whole time, kind of knowing that this is all just because they're going to be eaten eventually. And so I'm in full support of responsible and ethical as best as we can, raising our meat for eating. And I think it's great. But for me, it's very, very, very hard. Once they have been respectfully dispatched, when they are dead, then it's not as bad for me, because like it's done and it's over and that guilt kind of lifts. But this time when I was bringing home our steer, so it was Juneberry steer from 2 times ago, and I pulled up to our basement door because it was a lot of meat I had to haul in, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of beef I'm taking into the freezer, and Juneberry's like my buddy, and so she came up to the fence to see as I'm literally like carrying in like the carcass of her son. I'm just like, oh my gosh, so that's something that if you're kind of a sensitive person at all, speaking of the cows, it's something just to kind of keep in mind. So that for us, we are choosing to do things a little bit differently. I am using sex semen, so hopefully we get females more often than not, and I am choosing then instead to, sell the female stock potentially. Hi, Junie. Sell female stock. She's cranky because I haven't given her breakfast yet. Sell the female stock and use that money from selling the females to then pay someone else to raise. We've got lots of folks. Hi, babe. We've got lots of folks around here and there's Birdie. Lots of folks around here that raise beef on pasture and stuff. So I can just kind of offload that emotional hard part, to somebody else. So it's something, chickens aren't as hard. Like I still don't enjoy it or look forward to it, but raising meat birds and things, that's something that I'm a little less emotionally attached to, as opposed to a cow where it's like, I know his mom, it's harder. So that's something just to keep in mind. It all sounds well and good to raise your own meat, but you got birds under there. But when it comes down to it, it can be very challenging emotionally. So those are just a few of the things that I wish someone had told me before I got into homesteading, things to consider. And so I'm sure you probably have some ideas as well. So please leave them in the comments. Maybe some folks who are just getting into homesteading or still dreaming of that homestead can read our comments and be better off than we are. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. And if you're watching this as part of the Homesteady playlist, make sure that you check out the next, oh, Birdie, she's so cute. I can't get over how cute this little cow is. Make sure you check out the other videos on the playlist, because I'm sure there's awesome homesteaders on there as well with some other great ideas for you. And if you are new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you decided to stop by and visit Juneberry and Birdie and me. See you next week for more from your Rough and Tumble Farmhouse.